Hey guys, tonight we drift back into a time when adventure was cold, cruel, and caked in frostbite. You're not lounging in bed under soft blankets anymore. Nope, you've just volunteered for a 19th century Arctic expedition. Think endless ice, canned meat gone bad, and the sort of body odor that never fully leaves wool. You stand on the creaking deck of a wooden ship, sails stiff with frost, breath hanging in the air like cigarette smoke. Around you, grizzled men bustle with ropes and crates, their faces already half frozen from the Atlantic gales. You're wearing what they call Arctic gear, a few layers of itchy wool, a fur-lined cap that smells like wet dog, and boots stuffed with straw. It's all very charming until the wind cuts through it like a knife dipped in ice water. You've barely left port, but already your fingers feel stiff. The sun glints off the icy sea like a cruel joke. Somewhere out there is the fabled Northwest Passage, allegedly a shortcut to Asia. But really, it's just a death maze disguised as a geography question. The ship creaks forward, breaking small ice floes with a sickening crunch, and you realize there's no turning back. You're not here to relax. You're here to test the limits of what a human body can endure with minimal nutritional understanding and maximum optimism. Spoiler: you probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, drop your city and local time in the comments. Always fun to see where you're tuning in from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The ship sails farther north, and the cold stiffens your lungs. The expedition leader, a stout British officer with an ego twice the size of Greenland, assures everyone that success is inevitable. "We shall sail into history," he says, gesturing grandly at the empty horizon. You nod, though you're mostly thinking about how badly you need to pee, and whether anyone will notice if you just go off the side. You quickly discover that historical expedition translates to 3 months of doing backbreaking labor while getting yelled at in 4 languages. You're tasked with loading crates of food, tools, and personal effects onto Sledge's wooden beasts, designed to glide over snow, but only if not overloaded with canned beef and hope. And already there's a problem. The expedition brought way too much. Historians still argue whether it was arrogance or just poor planning, but this ship is packed like a Victorian Costco run. Tinned vegetables, spare boots, several pianos, no really, and entire crates of silverware, because heaven forbid you eat your salted pork without proper cutlery. On paper, everything looks admirable. The crew includes scientists, sailors, and a token artist to sketch your inevitable demise. But reality hits like a slap from an icy mitten. Within days, you're seasick, exhausted, and covered in bruises from slipping on frost-slick decks. The further north you go, the stranger the light becomes. Days blur into nights. Sometimes it's bright at midnight, then pitch black by afternoon. Your internal clock gives up. You sleep when they tell you, eat when they remember to feed you, and slowly lose any concept of time. Oh, and you share a room the size of a closet with 6 other men and 1 pair of socks between you. Personal space? Never heard of it. The walls sweat with condensation. Every surface is damp. You're pretty sure you saw a mushroom growing on someone's collar. Nobody talks about it. The ship anchors near a frozen coastline. From here, it's all sledges and snowshoes. You are told you'll be walking for weeks. "It'll be invigorating," the captain says. You glance down at your wool-wrapped toes and wonder if you'll still have them in a month. You set off across the ice. The sky is an endless gray smear above you, the landscape a sea of white, broken only by jagged ice formations that look like frozen shark fins. Your breath fogs up your eyelashes. The air smells clean, unnervingly clean, like a hospital with no roof. Your sled team is a mess. The dogs are half trained. One of them keeps trying to eat your gloves, and the lead dog clearly hates you. You pull the sled alongside them, sinking into the snow with every step. It's like dragging a sofa through mashed potatoes. Your thighs are already on strike. Someone starts singing a sea shanty badly. You want to throw a snowball at his head, but your fingers are too numb to form one. Instead, you focus on the crunch of snow underfoot, the squeak of the sled runners, and the deep silence that surrounds you like a blanket made of dread. The first night on land is, well, unforgettable. You set up camp with the others, erecting a canvas tent that's about as wind resistant as a wet napkin. Inside, it's barely warmer than outside. You wrap yourself in a sleeping bag lined with animal hair and close your eyes. Sleep doesn't come. Cold fingers of wind snake their way in through every seam. Someone snores like a walrus with allergies. Another man mutters in his sleep something about missing his wife, or possibly ham. You start to drift off, dreaming of fireplaces and central heating, but then a sharp gust of wind rips through the tent, and suddenly you're wide awake again, wondering why your nose feels like it's about to fall off. You wake up at what feels like 3 a.m. but is probably noon. Your boots are frozen stiff. You have to spend 10 minutes breathing into them just to get your feet in. Your fingers are so numb you drop your spoon 3 times, trying to eat a lump of congealed porridge. It tastes like sadness. You trudge on. Another day, another mile of white nothing. You begin to realize why so many of these expeditions ended in disaster. It's not just the cold. It's the sheer emptiness, the psychological toll of existing in a landscape where nothing moves, nothing grows, and your only friends are frostbite and regret. One of your fellow explorers, Jenkins, slips on a patch of ice and curses the snow in 5 different dialects. "Why is it always under my foot?" he cries. You laugh, sort of, but only because it hurts too much to do anything else. Later, someone says Jenkins used to be a baker. Now he's a man who stares into the distance and whispers to his mittens. Still, the spirit of discovery pushes you on. That and the knowledge that turning back means failure, and no one wants to be the guy who gave up because his fingers got a bit tingly. So you march, even as your toenails begin to blacken, and your breath whistles like a broken kettle. They say humans aren't built for this kind of cold. They're right. You've never wanted central heating more in your life. You fantasize about radiators, about hot soup, about socks that don't smell like goat and despair, and that's just the beginning. Morning comes, if you can call it that. The light doesn't really change much out here. It's more of a gray haze, like you're living inside a cup of oversteeped tea. You blink awake inside your canvas coffin, lips cracked, face frozen to your blanket, and you think, yep, still alive. Unfortunately, you start your day with the most important meal of the century. Hardtack and something they swear is tea. It tastes like smoke and disappointment. You suck it down anyway because chewing anything frozen solid feels like biting granite. Your teeth already ache, and it's only day 4. You wriggle your feet into stiff boots that haven't dried in days. If you want a little comfort, you smear animal fat on your socks. Supposedly, it adds warmth. Realistically, it just makes your toes feel like greased sausages. Let's talk gear. This is state-of-the-art by 19th century standards, which means wool, leather, and hope. Your parka is thick but never truly dry. The wool layers trap body heat and also body stench. You smell like wet sheep and last week's regret. Historians still argue whether early Arctic explorers underestimated the cold or just overestimated themselves. Either way, the result is the same. You're freezing. The mittens offer 0 dexterity. You can't even scratch your nose without a full facial assault. Zippers don't exist yet, so everything is laced, buckled, or buttoned with frozen hands. It takes 15 minutes to dress and another 20 to recover from dressing. You pack up camp while the wind slaps your face like it has a personal vendetta. Snow whips sideways across the ice. There's no shelter, no relief, just a flat, white wasteland that stretches forever. If you squint, you might see a distant ridge. Or maybe that's just your eyes rebelling. You load the sledges again, their wooden frames bound with rope, soaked through from last night's snow. Everything is heavier now. The food is frozen solid. The canvas tents are stiff as cardboard. Even your sleeping bag crackles like a frozen tortilla. Then there's the matter of heat specifically, the total lack of it. On the ship, at least you had a small stove. Out here, it's whale oil in a tin lamp. Smells terrible, smokes worse. You burn it for a flicker of warmth, even though it makes the tent feel like a fish funeral. There's also the fire hazard part, but at this point, nobody minds the idea of spontaneous combustion. You shuffle forward with the others, wind at your face, sled ropes cutting into your shoulders. The dogs pull, panning clouds into the air. One of them limps. Another keeps looking at your ankle like it's a snack. You try not to make eye contact. Halfway through the day, your left boot starts leaking. Snow melts inside, then refreezes. Your toes go from tingling to screaming to nothing. You wiggle them. No response. Not good. Your clothes, damp from sweat and melted snow, stiffen into icy armor. You've learned not to stop moving. If you pause too long, your fingers stiffen. If you sit, your legs go numb. You think about the term exposure. It's a medical word now, but back then it just meant they didn't dress right, and now they're dead. Lunchtime, if you can call it that, is a strip of salt pork and more hardtack. You gnaw through it while standing. No time to rest. Someone suggests hot broth. Everyone laughs like it's a fantasy novel. There's no fire out here, just wind, snow, and the promise of another frozen night. And the wool. Oh, the wool. It scratches, it soaks, it never dries. You begin to develop what the journals call Arctic eczema. It's basically a rash that screams. Your thighs are raw from chafing. Your underarms feel like sandpaper. And the smell it's just say no one's making friends out here. You spot one of the officers trying to dry his socks under his arm while walking. That's innovation. That's also how you know you've hit a new low. Remember that whale oil I mentioned? Turns out it's not just for lamps. Some of the men rub it directly onto their skin. They swear it insulates. You swear it makes you smell like a sea creature that died of depression. But eventually you try it. Desperation doesn't ask for dignity. By evening, your beard has icicles. Your breath freezes in your mustache. Someone jokes that your face looks like a frozen scarecrow. You don't mind. You haven't seen a mirror in days, and honestly, it's probably for the best. You pitch camp again. The wind hasn't let up, and your fingers can't manage knots anymore. You fumble with the tent pegs until someone with less frostbite steps in. You sit on your pack and listen to the wind howl like a hungry god. Then it happens, the oil lamp flickers out. No light, no heat. Just darkness and the sound of a grown man quietly sobbing into his mittens. You don't even ask who it is. It could be any of you. Someone tries to lighten the mood by telling a story about an old expedition where a man cooked his boots for dinner. Everyone laughs. You all know it's not a joke. That was real. You just don't remember which expedition it was. Honestly, could have been Tuesday. One of the medics checks your fingers. He doesn't say much, but he does that thing where he nods slowly and mutters, never a good sign. You settle into your sleeping bag and notice it smells worse than usual, like wet fur and meat. You don't even care anymore. You curl up in it like a burrito of sadness and pray for sleep. Not rest, just unconsciousness. Anything to escape the cold. And still, you think about how this was once considered adventure. Men signed up for this with smiles and salutes. Governments funded it. The press cheered it. And here you are, feeling your ears slowly freeze off while someone quietly hums a lullaby from behind a wall of canvas. Outside, the aurora flickers across the sky. You can't see it through the tent, but you feel it like nature is throwing a light show you weren't invited to. Beautiful, distant, uncaring. Tomorrow it'll all repeat. The snow, the boots, the burning lungs. But for now, you lie still in your greasy wool cocoon, wondering how many more days your body can take. You close your eyes and, for a brief moment, imagine central heating, dry socks, and a bowl of soup that doesn't fight back. But when you wake up, it's just going to be snow again. Always snow. The wind hasn't stopped. It never really does. It just changes personality. Sometimes a soft moan that whispers across the tundra. Other times a screaming tantrum that slaps your tent until the seams groan. Today, it's in one of those moods. You crawl out of your sleeping bag, moving like a rusted hinge. Every joint protests. Your breath fogs the tent like a kettle left boiling too long. You're assigned to a sledge team again today. The dogs are already whining. The sledges are overloaded again. There's no real science to the packing process. It's mostly cram as much as you can until the wood creaks. Someone suggests ditching a few crates of canned oysters, has quickly overruled. Apparently, shellfish are morale boosters. You wonder how anyone thought oysters were a good idea in the Arctic. You pull anyway. The sledges are absurdly heavy. Each one is loaded with food, equipment, and crates full of optimism. Your rope digs into your shoulder. Every step is a negotiation between your thighs and the snow. You lean forward, knees burning, trying not to slip. The surface looks flat, but it lies. Underneath is a world of slush pits and uneven ridges. Your boots sink in with every other step. Snow creeps in from the top, melting briefly, then freezing again. One of your toenails is beginning to ache in that ominous, pulsing way. You pretend it's fine. Midway through the morning, one of the sledges starts listing. A runner has cracked. Maybe the wood shrank in the cold. Maybe it just gave up. Either way, you're now hauling 1,000 pounds of tinned meat on a sled that turns like a shopping cart with a broken wheel. Someone suggests unloading to fix it. The captain says now must press on. Time lost is danger gained, he declares. You mutter something unrepeatable about Victorian proverbs and continue dragging the lopsided beast. You pass over what appears to be a flat patch of ice, but it wobbles under your feet. There's water underneath, just a few inches below the surface. Black ice, someone mutters. A few more weeks and it won't hold at all. You keep walking and don't look down. You begin to feel it in your back. That low, grinding fatigue. It sits between your shoulder blades and grows heavier with every mile. You're sweating now, but the sweat cools instantly, soaking your wool. Now you're both hot and cold. It's like your skin can't make up its mind. Steam curls from your body. You look like a broken down locomotive. One of the dogs collapses mid-stride, just folds, mid-pull, into the snow. Everyone stops. A sailor named Dugan checks its paws. Frostbite, he says, like announcing a dinner menu. No drama, just fact. They lift the dog onto the sled. It doesn't move. The captain notes it in a logbook, then tells you all to press on. You start walking again, but slower now. Everyone's quieter. The silence wraps around you, thicker than the snow. Later, someone breaks the quiet. How far have we gone? A navigator shrugs. Maybe 5 miles. You nearly scream. It feels like 50. The horizon hasn't changed since breakfast. Just white in every direction. Even the sky feels like a sheet of paper stretched too tight. Historians still argue whether these expeditions were more about science or national pride. Some say they were geopolitical projects, meant to plant flags on ice and say, "We were here first." Others insist the men genuinely believed in mapping the Arctic. Either way, you're here now, half frozen, half delirious, and dragging a mobile pantry across a landscape that looks like the inside of a snow globe. Lunch is more hardtack and jerky. The jerky's frozen, so you have to suck on it like a meat popsicle. Someone offers you a sip of pemmican broth. You're not sure what's in it, and you're afraid to ask. It smells like beef and candle wax. Still, it's warm. You take it. The sled team pauses to rearrange crates. You sit on a stump of ice and stare at the sky. The clouds are low and pinkish. They look soft, deceivingly gentle. You can't tell if it's going to snow again or just crush your soul with aesthetic indifference. Your left glove has a tear. You patch it with a strip of cloth and some animal grease. Everything out here is patched. The sledges are patched. The boots are patched. The people are patched. You're all limping towards something that might not even be real. Eventually, the terrain changes. The snow grows deeper, softer. The sledges sink. Every step now feels like walking through cake batter. The dogs growl in frustration. One of them snaps at another. There's a scuffle. No one breaks it up. The dogs are tired too. You consider eating snow. You're told not to. It lowers your core temperature, but your mouth is dry. You sneak a handful anyway. It tastes like dust and loneliness. You imagine fresh fruit, juicy, dripping mango, warm bread, a cold beer. You nearly cry. Afternoon fades into that strange polar dusk. The light bends weirdly here. The shadows stretch too far. Your sense of direction is gone. The compass isn't helping it swings like it's drunk. Magnetic interference, they say. Common this far north. You start to wonder if the sun's even real anymore. As the sleds crest a low ridge, one of the crates splits open. Tinned meat spills into the snow, freezing instantly. Everyone groans. A few cans roll downhill. You chase after one, nearly face-planting into the snow. When you bring it back, you realize it's dented. A dented can means it might be spoiled. You remember what they told you. Botulism in canned goods was a known risk. But back then, no one understood exactly why it happened. Just that sometimes a bad can made you sweat, vomit, and die. You decide to keep it anyway. Risk management in the Arctic is about choosing which illness to try next. That night, your tent is half buried by snow before you even finish setting it up. The wind howls again. The ropes flap. The dogs whimper and curl into balls. You take off your boots, peel your socks off your skin, and notice 3 of your toes are purple. You wiggle them. Barely. Inside your sleeping bag, you breathe into your chest to stay warm. Someone outside is trying to sing. The tune is broken, like they've forgotten half the melody. But it helps. The sound of another voice keeps the cold at the edge of your mind. You drift off with your hands tucked deep into your armpits, like a bird folding its wings. You dream of summer and shade and waking up without frozen eyebrows. But you know tomorrow is waiting just beyond the canvas. And tomorrow has another broken sledge with your name on it. By now, you've stopped checking the calendar. It doesn't matter if it's Monday or Thursday, the Arctic doesn't care. Time is measured in how often you eat the same bland meal, how many times you wring out your socks, and how many body parts go numb before breakfast. You wake up to someone yelling. Not alarmed, just annoyed. Jenkins, the former baker turned sled hauler, has lost a mitten overnight. He's tearing apart his pack, muttering curses that would make a church bell flinch. Eventually, he gives up and wraps a spare sock around his hand like a sad oven mitt. He doesn't even complain when it starts to freeze. You step outside the tent and feel the cold slice across your cheeks. It's a slap, not a breeze. The sky is a pale, sterile blue. No clouds, no sun. Just that flat, even light that makes it impossible to guess the hour. The snow reflects it all back at you until your eyes sting. That's the day your fingers start to betray you. They don't move quite right. You try to lace up your boots, but your thumbs feel wooden. Your knuckles crack, leaving little blood spots on your mittens. Still, you gear up. There's no choice. The caravan is already moving. You shuffle along beside the sledges, now reduced to half a dozen after two broke down beyond repair. The group is quieter. Even the dogs have stopped barking. They pant in silence, tongues lolling, legs trembling. You hear one of them coughing. A dry, desperate wheeze. The path ahead is uneven. Large chunks of ice rise like jagged tombstones. You step around one and nearly twist your ankle in a hidden crevice. Jenkins isn't so lucky. He slips, drops his pack, and lands face first. Nobody rushes to help him. We're all too tired. He groans and rolls over. Fine, he says into the snow. I just wanted to hug the earth. You chuckle. It's the first laugh in 2 days. It comes out as a hoarse wheeze. Jenkins gives you a thumbs up with his sock hand and rolls back onto his stomach like a flannel-covered turtle. The real problem isn't the cold anymore. It's the hunger. The rations are thinning. Some crates were damaged during the last blizzard. One was found completely empty, just splintered wood and paw prints. We don't talk about it, but everyone suspects a dog got in. Or maybe a man. The line's blurry now. You chew a strip of jerky until your jaw aches. It's like eating boot leather dipped in salt. But it's fuel. And you need fuel because now every step feels like dragging your bones through molasses. And the conversations, well, they've changed. You used to talk about maps, discoveries, the world back home. Now, it's food. Always food. What you'd eat if you could. Someone mentions hot stew with dumplings. Another talks about jam on toast. You get dangerously specific. 2 eggs, scrambled soft, with chives. Buttered toast, coffee hot with cream. Would you eat Jenkins? Someone asks suddenly. It's Dugan, chewing on a splinter like it's a cigar. No one laughs. Jenkins doesn't even look up. Depends, he says. How are you cooking me? Historians still argue whether these kinds of conversations were common on expeditions. Some claim they were just dark humor. Others suggest they were early signs of mental fray when people started thinking about survival in flexible terms. Either way, it's happening now. You're not actually considering cannibalism, of course, but you're no longer not considering it. That evening, you're assigned cooking duty. It's your turn to heat up a pot of something resembling stew. It's mostly melted snow with scraps of pemmican and maybe a carrot slice if you're lucky. You stir it with a spoon that smells like tin and sadness. The stew is thick, brown, and mysteriously shiny. Everyone gathers around, bowls outstretched. You ladle it carefully, counting spoonfuls. Last time there was almost a fight over a second helping. You're down to 1 scoop per soul rationing now. You eat your portion slowly, letting the warmth pool in your mouth before swallowing. It tastes like boiled socks, but it's hot, and that's enough. Jenkins slurps his down in 3 gulps. Dugan licks his bowl clean, then his hands. After dinner, someone mentions their feet are tingling. That's not good. Tingling means nerves are starting to fail. Numbness follows. Then blisters. Then the dreaded black patches. You glance at your own feet, still wrapped in semi-frozen socks. You can't feel your big toe. You try to move it. Nothing. There's no medic here. Not really. Just a man with a journal of best guesses and a bottle of brandy he guards like treasure. He checks a few people and mumbles something about dry gangrene. That's not a phrase you want to hear near bedtime. You crawl into your tent, too exhausted to remove your boots. You curl around your pack like it's a pillow. The lamp flickers weakly. You huddle closer to the flame, even though the smoke makes your eyes sting. You hear someone whispering a prayer. Another man is muttering to himself in French over and over, like a mantra. Jenkins is snoring. You're glad. Snoring means he's still warm enough to breathe. Outside, it's still. Eerily so. You realize how quiet the snow can be, how it absorbs sound, muffles the world, until even your own heartbeat feels too loud. Then someone speaks, barely above a whisper. Would you rather freeze or starve? No one answers, not out loud. But you all know your answer. You close your eyes, pressing your forehead against the canvas, and try to remember summer. Trees, grass, a breeze that doesn't burn. Sleep doesn't come easy. When it does, you dream of walking endlessly, dragging a sled full of food you're not allowed to eat. Your boots fill with snow, your fingers fall off, and still you walk. You wake with a start, cold sweat clinging to your neck. You check your hands. All still there for now. Outside, someone is coughing again. Deep, rattling. Like something is coming loose in his lungs. You try not to listen. Instead, you think of what you do if you made it home. A bath, a clean bed, a window with curtains. No snow, no wind. Just silence that doesn't feel threatening. But for now, it's another night in the frozen wild, surrounded by men too tired to dream and too hungry to care. You wake up to white. Not just snow, but the kind of blinding, all-consuming whiteness that turns the world into a fogged-out painting. It's a full-blown whiteout sky, land. Even the men around you seem to blur at the edges. Everything blends into one colorless smear. You blink a few times, but it doesn't help. The horizon is gone. The ground under your feet might as well be air. The only thing reminding you that you haven't floated off into the void is the bitter cold gnawing at your ears. This is supposed to be the easy part. Navigation, following a route. On paper, it's just a matter of going north-northwest, keeping landmarks to your left. Except there are no landmarks now. Just infinite snow and the occasional threatening creak beneath the ice. The compass is no help either. You huddle around it, watching the needle spin and twitch like it's possessed. Magnetic interference, they say. Common in these latitudes. Historians still argue whether 19th century explorers fully understood just how much the Arctic distorts magnetic readings, or if they simply assumed a compass always told the truth and pressed on with blind faith. Either way, you're not getting any solid direction out of it. You might as well be using a salad spinner. And then there's the map. Oh, the map. A beautiful watercolor rendering of wishful thinking. Rivers drawn where rivers don't exist. Mountain ranges guessed at based on local accounts, which is explorer speak for some guy in a tavern pointed vaguely north. Your leader, the ever-dignified Captain Witherspoon, insists the chart is accurate. He taps it confidently with a gloved finger, says things like, "We're making fine progress," and "We'll reach the next depot by Thursday." It is currently Tuesday. You haven't seen a depot or anything resembling civilization in nearly 2 weeks. The irony isn't lost on you. In a world entirely made of ice, the one thing you can't seem to find is solid ground. You continue marching, slowly, hesitantly. The lead sled lurches over uneven ground, and the dogs snarl in frustration. Snow falls again, gentle but persistent. Within minutes, your footprints vanish behind you. It's like you never existed. That's when the disorientation really sets in. The light is so diffuse that even your shadow disappears. You turn left and suddenly feel like you've turned right. A few paces forward and someone shouts from behind. You're veering, but you're not sure who they're yelling at. Dugan ties a strip of red cloth to the end of a stick and jabs it into the snow every few meters. A trail of breadcrumbs in a world where birds don't even bother to live. You do your best to follow them, but the flags vanish in the flurry as fast as he plants them. You start to understand how explorers got lost just a mile from their own camps. How men could walk in circles for hours, thinking they were forging ahead. You catch Jenkins whispering numbers under his breath. Turns out he's been counting steps between rest breaks. It's either genius or madness. At midday, though, again, who really knows, you all stop to recheck bearings. Witherspoon consults the map, turning it sideways, then upside down. You realize with a quiet kind of horror that he doesn't know where you are. Not really. Has guessing. Dressed it up with military confidence, sure, but guessing all the same. Still, he points north and gives the order to move on. You trudge. Someone falls behind. It's one of the younger sailors, maybe 19. His name might be Tom, or possibly Tim. You haven't spoken to him much, he rarely talks. You glance back and see him standing motionless, one boot half buried in the snow. You call out, no response. He's blinking slowly, like a man who forgot how to move. Frostbite, maybe. Or just the fatigue setting in. Eventually, someone grabs his arm and hauls him forward. He stumbles back into motion. You make camp early. The wind is shifting, and the snow is growing thicker. Visibility is down to a few feet. You barely find the tent site. When you finally collapse inside, your body radiates exhaustion. Your shoulders throb, your thighs are jelly, and your brain is stuck somewhere between alert and numb. There's no fire tonight, too risky in this weather. The lamp burns weakly, casting long shadows. You eat in silence. Another bowl of mush. You stopped asking what's in it days ago. Dugan pulls out the compass again and mutters something dark. He claims it pointed due south this morning, then flipped halfway through the day. We could be heading in circles, he growls. Wouldn't even know. Captain Witherspoon dismisses the concern with a wave. The stars will guide us when the sky's clear, he says confidently. Though no one can remember the last time they saw the stars. You lie back and stare at the roof of the tent. Frost patterns bloom across the canvas, delicate and eerie. They look almost pretty if you squint, like nature's version of stained glass. But then the conversation turns. Again. Suppose we are lost, someone says. What then? No one answers. The wind howls outside. Do we turn back? Silence. Or ration tighter? You hear a spoon clink against a bowl. Jenkins sighs. I say we start with fewer questions and more sleep. No one laughs. Not this time. You close your eyes, pressing your hands into your armpits for warmth. Your toes are still there. You think. You wiggle them just to be sure. That night you dream of spinning compasses, of being stuck in a snow globe someone keeps shaking. In the dream, the map melts in your hands, the ink running like tears. You wake to more white. Another lost day. Another step in a direction you no longer trust. The air today is so dry, it feels like your skin might crack open just from blinking. You crawl out of your tent, mouth coated in that stale, wool-filtered morning taste that no amount of melted snow can wash away. The sun, or whatever passes for it out here, is just a pale blur behind a sky the color of dishwater. There's no real warmth, no comfort, just another promise that you'll be walking until your knees revolt. You glance around camp. Jenkins is heating what might be broth over the lamp. Dugan is rubbing his boots with whale oil, muttering to himself about how real men should be born with hooves. And then there's the captain. Captain Witherspoon has reached a new level of detachment from reality. He's standing with one foot on a snow-dusted crate, hands behind his back, gazing at the featureless horizon like it's a seascape from a balcony. His beard is frozen solid completely. It sticks out like frosted wire, each strand a tiny icicle. Someone joked yesterday that he could use it as a letter opener. Today he's quoting Virgil, loudly, in Latin. He speaks it with flair, as if he's addressing a Roman Senate instead of a dozen half-dead sled haulers. Nobody interrupts him. Partly because it's too much effort, and partly because, well, what else are we going to listen to? The sound of our joints failing? You try to stretch, but your lower back seizes halfway. Every movement feels mechanical now, like you're cranking a rusted pulley system that forgot how knees work. You wonder if you'll ever sit in a proper chair again. The morning ritual unfolds as usual. Melt some snow, choke down hardtack, wring out your gloves, retie your foot wrappings, smear whatever greasy substance is available onto your cheeks. That last part is surprisingly important. Wind burnout here can peel your skin like an overcooked tomato. The day's route takes you over a patch of broken ice. It looks solid from a distance, but you can hear it. A faint groan beneath your feet. The ice shifts slightly under the sled's weight. The dogs hesitate. You all do. Move quickly, Witherspoon says, snapping out of his Latin fog. Eyes forward, no delays. And you do, because pausing feels worse than walking. As long as you're moving, your body can pretend it has purpose. The ice creaks. Someone slips. Jenkins loses a boot and nearly goes down with the sledge. You help him up, and he says, "If I fall through, just tell my wife it was majestic." The wind picks up as you reach a low ridge. It's sharp today, slicing through wool and skin. Your scarf is frozen to your chin. You have to breathe through your nose to avoid frostbite on your lips. Even then, your nostrils stick together with each inhale. Captain Witherspoon starts singing. A sea shanty, off-key, but with enthusiasm. "Oh, the ice and the sea, they'll carry me free," he bellows. You exchange looks with Jenkins. This is new. The Latin was one thing. Singing? That's a development. Historians still debate the mental states of expedition leaders like Witherspoon. Was it sheer resolve, controlled mania, or a slow descent into ice-induced delusion? Some journals from real expeditions describe captains who spoke to glaciers or insisted they saw angels in the snow. Whatever it is, you're now led by a man whose beard could kill a bear and whose mood changes with the wind. Around midday, you spot something unusual. A dark shape in the snow. As you approach, it resolves into an old cairn rock piled neatly. A weather-beaten stick stuck at the top. A marker left by a previous expedition. You dust off a wooden plaque. Faint letters, barely legible. Here passed the crew of the Northern Star, March 1847. No one speaks for a moment. You all stare at it, quietly calculating. That's almost 20 years ago. No bodies, no supplies left behind. Just a note from the past saying, "Hey, we existed." You move on, but slower. It lingers with you, that sense of walking in the footsteps of men who never made it back. That night, the cold settles deeper. It's not just around you, it's inside you. In your joints, your belly, your spine. You can't seem to warm up, even inside the tent. Someone tries to start a joke, something about who smells worse, but it fizzles out halfway through. You're too tired to laugh. Dinner's a canned stew from a dented tin. Dugan offers it up like a sacrament. One bite, and you'll remember why we're out here. He means it sarcastically, but honestly, you could use any reason at all. The stew tastes like someone boiled despair in a tin bucket. You eat it anyway. The metal spoon burns your lips with its chill. You try not to think about what part of the animal this used to be. After dinner, Witherspoon reads from his journal. It's mostly coordinates and notes, but he adds commentary. Today we made 8 miles. Excellent pace. Spirits remain high. You all glance at each other. Spirits are not high. Jenkins is asleep with his eyes open. Dugan keeps talking to a glove he named Matilda. Someone's sniffling in the corner, not sick, just sad. Witherspoon finishes his notes and closes the book with flair. Gentlemen, he says, we are part of something eternal. Then he picks up his lamp and retreats into his tent. You lie back on your pack and stare up at the canvas roof again. The ice crystals shift in the lamplight. You watch them grow and think, maybe if I stay still long enough, you'll become one of them. And yet there's something weirdly comforting in the routine. The bad food, the worse weather, the predictably unpredictable captain. It's like your body has accepted this now. This is your life. Pull, eat, sleep, freeze, repeat. You close your eyes and whisper the last lines of Witherspoon's shanty, just to yourself. Oh, the ice and the sea, they'll carry me free. You're not sure what it means, but somehow it makes sense. You wake up to a new kind of ache. It's in your gums. You run your tongue along your teeth. They feel tender, like they've been slightly loosened overnight. One molar pulses with a strange heat. You think back to a phrase the ship's doctor mentioned before the journey began. Early signs of scurvy. Welcome to the next chapter of your Arctic vacation. The crew is moving slowly this morning. Not out of laziness. No one's had the energy for that in days, but because everything hurts. Knees, elbows, fingers, gums. Captain Witherspoon declares it a good marching day, which means the wind is merely brutal, not existential. You melt some snow for breakfast, flavor it with a chunk of pemmican the size of a matchbox, and gnaw your way through it like a desperate badger. You try not to taste it. Just fuel. Just get it down. Jenkins offers you a piece of something chewy and gray. Seal, he says proudly. Dried, probably. Might be walrus. It tastes like salted rubber and wet pennies, but at least it's not more hardtack. As you load the sledges, you overhear Dugan whispering about a cure. Seal blood, he says. Raw, still warm. That's the trick. Locals swear by it. Keeps the teeth in. You pause. You're not entirely sure he's wrong. Historians have long debated whether polar explorers understood scurvy's cause. Some insisted it came from bad air or damp bedding. Others knew the truth, a lack of vitamin C. But good luck finding an orange grove in the Arctic Circle. By noon your joints are screaming. The sledges drag worse than ever, their runners caked with ice. You lean in, shoulder to rope, as if willing the wood forward by sheer misery. And then Jenkins coughs up blood. Just a little. A polite dab on a rag. But you see it. So does Dugan. No one says anything. Jenkins wipes his face and mutters, "Bit of dryness, that's all." He tries to whistle and fails. You march on. That afternoon, you stop to rest near a frozen inlet. The wind has blown most of the snow away, revealing a wide field of ice. It's smooth, glittering, and dangerously beautiful. Witherspoon calls it a natural blessing, but your gut says otherwise. You've learned to distrust anything out here that looks too easy. Still, he insists you cross it. Well, save hours, he claims. It's perfectly safe. You share a look with Jenkins. His beard is crusted with ice, and his eyes say, "Perfectly safe never means safe." Halfway across, the first crack echoes beneath your feet. Everyone freezes. Then the second one comes, louder. The ice moans beneath the weight of the sledges. One of the dogs growls, ears flat against its skull. "We keep moving," Witherspoon shouts. "Do not stop." The third crack is the worst. It's sharp and close. You feel it vibrate up through your boots, and then you hear it, the splash. A sledge goes under. It happens fast. One moment, it's gliding across the ice. The next, it's gone, swallowed by the dark water below. Two dogs yelp and scramble, barely clinging to the edge. Jenkins dives forward and grabs their harnesses, pulling with all his might. One dog makes it. The other slips away silently. The water seals back up like nothing happened. Everyone stands still, panting, wide-eyed. Witherspoon mutters something in Latin again, like it's a spell that might glue the world back together. No one moves until he finally says, "We go around." You skirt the edge of the inlet for hours, boots slipping on the slush. No one talks. You're all too aware of how thin the world is beneath you. That night, the topic returns quietly under the canvas, in between chattering teeth and reluctant spoonfuls of stew. Scurvy. Someone points out that their gums are bleeding. Another confesses they can't taste anything anymore. Jenkins admits his legs feel spongy. Whatever that means, it doesn't sound good. Dugan repeats the seal blood theory. Raw and warm, he insists. That's the cure. Locals drink it straight, like a hot toddy, but more gooey. You're not ready for that. Yet. But the idea doesn't seem quite so mad anymore. Later, you overhear Witherspoon asking about the next hunting opportunity. Seals, he says. Walruses. Something with fresh blood. His tone is clipped, medical, like he's making a grocery list. You lie down, pulling your sleeping bag up over your nose, and listen to the wind scrape against the tent. Your teeth throb. Your fingers twitch. In the dark, you imagine drinking something warm and salty. Something thick. And you wonder if it came to it, whether you do it. The answer comes faster than expected. Yes. Yes, you would. You don't even hear the dinner can hiss anymore when it's opened. You've grown numb to that metallic pop, the way the tin flexes in the cold, the tiny plume of chemical-scented vapor that escapes when the lid's pried back. It's just background now, like the wind, like the shivering. You're sitting cross-legged on a patch of hard-packed snow, your bowl in your lap, watching a congealed, jellied meat cylinder slide from the can into a pot of melted snow. It plops with all the enthusiasm of a dead fish. You don't flinch. Tonight's delicacy is more tinned meat. Could be beef, could be horse, might be squirrel. Doesn't matter. What does matter, though, and you've heard the whispers, is the lead. Yep. Lid. You stir the pot absently, the iron spoon clinking against the side. The others mill about the camp, setting up tents, coaxing warmth from damp wool, rubbing aching joints. You can hear someone humming again. Jenkins, probably. Hez started singing to his fingers in the evenings, says it helps circulation. Or morale, or both. Dugan leans over your shoulder, squinting at the meat like it owes him money. That stuff's gonna make your gums peel, he says, then adds, but at least you won't feel your teeth long enough to care. Historians now believe that lead poisoning contributed heavily to the downfall of several Arctic expeditions in the 19th century, especially the doomed ones that relied on improperly sealed canned foods. Back then, the tins were soldered with lead, handy material for sealing and for slowly unraveling your nervous system. You slurp your portion of stew. It's salty, oily, and faintly metallic, like someone boiled a doorknob. You chew slowly, your tongue numb and uncooperative. When you swallow, you feel a strange tightness behind your eyes, like a hangover that hadn't fully arrived yet. After dinner, Dugan shares a theory, always has one. You ever notice how Jenkins keeps dropping things? He asks. That's not cold fingers. That's lead. Got into his nerves. It's crawling through his body like a worm. You glance over at Jenkins. He's shaking out his gloves, muttering a song again. He fumbles a match trying to light his lamp. It snaps in half. He stares at it for a moment, expression blank. You say nothing. The effects of lead poisoning are slow and sinister. Memory loss, irritability, tremors, fatigue. Sound familiar? You go to bed with your lips tingling and your stomach making small complaints. You tell yourself it's just the cold. It's always the cold. The next morning, your head is pounding. It's not a normal headache. It feels thick like your brain is wearing a helmet that's 2 sizes too small. Your vision blurs slightly when you stand up. You reach for your pack and nearly tip over. Breakfast is the same stew as last night. No one questions it. Jenkins doesn't speak at all. He just eats mechanically, scraping the bowl with a spoon held in an unsteady hand. You march in silence. The snow crunches under your boots. The sledges squeal against the ice, and your muscles twitch in a way that's become disturbingly familiar. Little spasms in your thighs, your fingers, tiny electric flickers that you can't control. You're walking beside a man whose name you've forgotten. You think he's the one who used to whistle. He doesn't anymore. Today he's whispering numbers, just numbers, over and over. Captain Witherspoon still insists you're making progress. He paces ahead of the group, occasionally gesturing toward nothing in particular. There, he says. That ridge. That's where the passage begins. There is no ridge, just wind-carved dunes of snow. At camp that evening, you notice a change. The lamp sputters as usual. The canvas flaps in the wind, but the mood has darkened. Not from fear, but from resignation. No one wants to admit it, but everyone's thinking it. The food is hurting us. It's poisoning us, and it's also all we have left. You dig through a supply crate looking for anything else. Crackers, flour, dried beans, all frozen solid. All sealed with the same dull gray solder around the lid. You pick up a can and study the seam. It glints faintly in the lamplight. You wonder how much lead is in this one. Enough to cause tremors? Or just a bit of memory loss? Jenkins sits down beside you. Remember lemons? He asks, out of nowhere. Sliced. With sugar. You nod. You don't, but you nod. He chuckles, then spits blood into the snow. You both watch it freeze. Historians still argue how much the crews understood what was happening to them. Some suggest they knew something was wrong but lacked the vocabulary. Others believe they just blamed the cold, the hunger, the gods of the ice. The truth? You're living it. You're the slow unraveling. Not dramatic. Just steady. Just enough to make everything feel off. That night, the stew is unusually greasy. You eat it anyway. Everyone does. And as you curl into your sleeping bag, you try not to think about what it's doing to your insides. You dream that your teeth fall out one by one, each landing in the snow with a soft thunk. You pick them up and they melt in your hands. When you wake, your head is still buzzing. You rub your temples, then glance at the others. Jenkins is staring at his bowl like he's never seen food before. Dugan has both gloves on the same hand. Witherspoon is sketching maps on the side of a tent using charcoal and spit. And you? You reach for another can, because it's either that or nothing. The snow falls slow and soft today, but it doesn't feel gentle. It feels indifferent, like the sky's just tossing more white onto an already buried world, layering it over the last trace of your footprints, your supplies, your hope. You crawl from your tent like something half-formed, dragging your limbs into motion. Everything is damp. Your sleeping bag, your socks, even your thoughts. The cold hasn't just soaked into your bones, it's become part of you now. You can't imagine feeling warm again. You can't remember what your own body used to smell like without whale grease and boiled meat residue. The dogs don't bark anymore. They just stare, heads low, ribs visible. They curl into themselves overnight, paws over their noses, steaming faintly in the morning light like breathing firewood. One of them didn't get up this morning. No one mentioned it. You light the lamp with numb fingers and press it close to your boots. The oil sputters, releasing its usual sour stench. You don't care anymore. You would sit inside a barrel of burning fish if it meant one more degree of warmth. Breakfast is a crust of hardtack you chipped from the bottom of a bag. You'd lick the inside of a tin cup like there might be flavor left. Dugan offers you a spoon of lukewarm fat skimmed from last night's stew. Good calories, he says. You take it and nod your thanks. It tastes like chewing on someone else's skin. Let's talk about sleep. You haven't really slept in days. Not properly. Just brief stints of unconsciousness where your brain lets go for a while and hands the wheel to some half-awake part of you that dreams in fragments. A fireplace. A quilt. Your mother's voice telling you to sit up straight. A clatter of hooves. The smell of warm bread. Then it's gone, and you wake to the sound of someone outside retching into the snow. You crawl out to investigate. It's Jenkins. Hayes doubled over, hands on knees, trying to catch his breath. You see flecks of pink in the vomit. He stands, wipes his mouth, gives a weak thumbs up. Must have been the stew, he says. You both know it wasn't. Camp breaks late today. The captain's map Iswell. It's changed. Not improved. Just changed. You don't ask questions anymore. He draws new lines each morning like he's tracing something only he can see. Maybe he is. Today's route winds through a patch of half-frozen marsh. Yes, marsh. Somehow, even here, there's mud under the snow. The sleds don't glide so much as drag, wheels grinding through slush and resisting every step. It's like hauling a bathtub filled with bricks and regret. One of the men, Frenchie, the quiet one, loses his footing. He falls face first into a freezing puddle. Doesn't get up for a long moment. When he does, his beard is iced to his chest. Fine, he mumbles, though his lips are blue. You march on, your boots heavy with frozen muck. The wind picks up again. Always with the wind. By the time you set camp, the snow is knee-deep again. The dogs are trembling. Dugan is staring at the sled ropes like he's forgotten what they're for. Jenkins is picking at his fingers until they bleed. Everyone's quiet. And the tents, those poor, saturated, sagging tents, are no longer shelters. They're fabric coffins, sagging with condensation and the weight of half-melted snow. Inside, you peel off your boots and notice something new. Your toes, 2 of them. They're gray now. No feeling. No response when you prod them. You poke one with a matchstick. Nothing. You glance around. No one else looks better. Dugan has frostbite on 3 fingers. Jenkins' breath smells like rot. Frenchie hunts spoken all day. And so you do what they all do. Smear more grease on everything. Tuck your numb feet into your armpits and lie there, awake, listening to the ice moan outside. Nighttime becomes a theater of shared misery. You try not to move because the sleeping bag sticks to your clothes with damp frost. You hear the others rustling, coughing, muttering. Someone whispers the same phrase over and over, might be a prayer or a recipe. But worst of all, the crying. You hear it once, then again. A stifled sob from the next tent. A deep, broken exhale. Not loud, not dramatic, just defeated. You don't ask who it is. Could be anyone. Could be you tomorrow. Historians still try to recreate what it was like to sleep on these expeditions. Some modern adventurers simulate it, but they do it with rescue plans, with GPS, with fire-starting kits and protein bars and camera crews. You're doing it with one dry match and a frozen mustache and a sock for a pillow. At some point deep in the night, The tent fabric pulls tight. Ice, wind, you sit up. The canvas is bowing inward, snow piling on top. You scramble, shake it off, shout to the others. The tent collapses halfway. Jenkins swears. Dugan curses the captain. Frenchie just lies there, blinking up at the sagging roof. You fix it. Eventually. You always do. And that's the strangest part, how much you get used to. You eat dinner sitting on your knees, your thighs too sore to fold under you. The stew is thinner now. No meat, just broth and memory. You sip it and feel it slide down your throat like melted glue. You try to sleep, but the tent stinks of oil and damp wool. You wrap your hands under your coat and rock slowly. It helps. A little. And you dream not of escape, not of rescue, but of a room with dry clothes. A real bed, a towel. Nothing dramatic. Just ordinary things you now think of like treasure. Outside, the dogs whimper in their sleep. A light wind stirs the snow against the canvas. And inside, you lie there, no longer even hoping for warmth just for one more night, where you don't freeze completely. They're watching you now, the dogs. You notice it as you trudge along behind the sled, how their heads turn ever so slightly when you slip, how their eyes track your movements when you stop to cough or adjust your rope. There's something in the way they stare, quiet and calculating. It shouldn't be surprising. They're starving too. One of them, the big one, black and gray, with a torn earlets out a low growl this morning when Dugan gets too close to the food crate. It's empty, by the way. Just some crumbs. But to the dog, that crate might as well be a feast. Dugan stares right back. Don't you even think about it, he mutters. The dog doesn't blink. You keep your distance. That morning stew is half strength. More melted snow, less substance. Jenkins doesn't even bother heating his. He just gnaws on a frozen chunk like a popsicle from the underworld. His hands tremble as he holds it. You've all stopped pretending the food is helping. It's ritual now: melt, sip, swallow. The warmth lasts 10 minutes, tops. Then it's back to ice wind and stomach growls. Captain Witherspoon announces today's route as challenging but invigorating. You swear under your breath. The captain no longer pulls a sled or hauls gear. His job is strictly morale, which mostly involves pacing dramatically, quoting books no one remembers, and making inspirational speeches to people too tired to blink. Still, you move out. The terrain today is punishing. Cracked ice, scattered rocks, snowdrifts waist deep in places. Every step requires thought, effort. Your knees creak, your spine pops. Dugan falls again and doesn't even get up right away. He just lies there, breathing hard. Just gonna enjoy the view, he says, face down. You haul him up. A few hours later, the sled gets stuck. It's Jenkins' turn to dig out the runners. He bends, scoops snow, and collapses. Not dramatically, just folds. Like his body has decided no more. You rush to him with the others, his breathing, eyes open, but when you ask if he's all right, he blinks at you slowly. I saw my wife, he says. She was at the stove, cooking cabbage. You all exchange a look. Dugan waves a hand in front of his face. Hey, snap out of it. No cabbage, just ice and tears. But Jenkins isn't hearing you anymore. Captain Witherspoon walks over, glances down, and sighs. Hallucinations. Possibly the lead. Or malnutrition. Or both. He needs rest. Rest. That's the go-to answer now. Nobody gets rest. You just lie still and try not to die. You set up camp early. The captain claims it's strategic repositioning. Everyone else knows it's because no one can walk another mile without falling apart. While unpacking, you hear the dogs again. Not barking, just pacing. Restless. Hungry. They've started growling more often. At each other. At you. You notice the black and gray one watching your hands when you eat. Later, you catch one licking the edge of a stew pot. No big deal, right? Just desperate dogs. Then one of them disappears. It's Frenchie who first notices. He counts them twice. Again. One dog missing. You find a patch of blood near the sleds. No body. No one says anything, but a quiet chill settles over the group that has nothing to do with the wind. That night, the dogs are tied farther away from camp, but they howl, low, long, like mourning. You roll into your sleeping bag and try to block it out, but it continues over and over. Howls that seep into your ears and nest in your chest. You dream of teeth, gleaming, white, surrounding you. The next day, you notice Witherspoon has begun carrying a knife at his belt. Not his ceremonial one actual blade, curved, sharpened. He says it's for safety. You believe him? You just wonder whose safety he means. When Frenchie feeds the dogs, they fight over scraps. Snarl, snap, claw. He has to hit one with a stick to stop it from attacking the others. The dog's eyes gleam in the low light. Not friendly, not loyal, predatory. And then it happens. Mid-March, you hear a shout Dugan. One of the dogs lunged at him, bit into his sleeve, didn't draw blood, but it didn't let go for a solid 10 seconds. You all saw it. No one knows what to do. Do you punish it? Eat it? Let it go? Witherspoon decides. The dog will be watched. No sudden moves. Everyone stay calm. Calm. Sure. That night the dogs are tied tighter. But they pull. Snarl. One chews through its rope and has to be retied with a chain. You're no longer resting at night. You're lying awake with your knife tucked under your sleeping bag, listening for pause. Jenkins wakes up screaming once. Says he dreamed the dogs were chewing on his feet. You check. They weren't. Yet. Historians rarely write about this part of the expedition. The breakdown of trust between man and beast. The moment when sled dogs, companions, heroes even become competitors. Rivals, scavengers. But you're living it now. You still rely on them to pull your sled. Still whisper encouragement as they strain forward. But at night, when their eyes glow in the lamplight and their bodies twitch in sleep, you wonder if you were to collapse. If you were to fall behind, would they wait? Or would they feed? The ice cracks again. Not loudly this time, not like the dramatic creak that makes men freeze mid-step, but a quiet, sinister sound. Like a sigh from beneath your boots. You pause, listen, then move forward carefully, pretending you didn't hear it. That's the new strategy. Pretend. Pretend your sled isn't twice as heavy as it was yesterday. Pretend the blackness under your toenails is from bruising, not necrosis. Pretend Jenkins isn't humming to himself in a language no one recognizes anymore. Today, you are traversing a frozen lake. At least you think it's a lake. The map says area of uncertain terrain, which is expedition code for probably water, possibly doom. The ice underfoot is glassy, treacherous. It looks strong in the morning light shining like crystal, but you know better. You know how it thins unexpectedly, how it can vanish beneath a layer of snow. You shuffle forward, boots crunching gently. Dugan is ahead, checking the surface with a ski pole. He stabs, listens, nods. The sound is reassuring when it's deep and solid. Hollow means step aside. Suddenly he stops. Hold, he calls back. You freeze. The dogs freeze. Even Jenkins, who spent the last hour mumbling about cinnamon rolls, pauses mid-rant. Dugan crouches, brushes snow aside, and reveals a crack, a fresh one, jagged, long. You all inch sideways, moving in slow motion, hearts pounding. The air is so still it buzzes in your ears. You try not to breathe too hard. Every step feels like a wager. Then snap. Frenchie goes in. The ice beneath him shatters like sugar glass. 1 second, he's upright. The next, he's swallowed whole, arms flailing. A scream, a splash, a scramble of limbs and gear. Rope, someone yells. You drop your sled and sprint forward, if it can be called sprinting. You hurl a rope toward the hole as Dugan grabs Frenchie's flailing arm. The man's face is already turning purple, his lips blurple. His hands, red and raw, can't grip the rope at first. Somehow you pull him out, drag him onto solid ice. He gasps, vomits water, sobs once, then curls into a shivering ball. You wrap him in spare wool. Jenkins offers him a sip of warm broth, but Frenchie can't hold the cup. His fingers are locked in a frozen claw. The camp sets up in silence that night, early again. No one has the energy to speak. Frenchie doesn't eat. He doesn't move. Just lies in the tent, moaning softly, covered in everything dry you can find. You all know what hypothermia looks like. You've seen it before. Seen the way the body shakes, then stops. The way lips go gray. The way skin waxes over like candle drippings. You pretend you don't see it. You just stare at your own hands, rub your own feet, whisper your own name over and over like a prayer. Later the wind howls. Real wind, angry wind. It picks up snow and slings it sideways, tearing at the tents. The canvas bows, snaps, flaps, like it's trying to fly. You brace your side of the tent with your shoulder. Dugan does the same on his side. Someone shouts, another tent has collapsed. Jenkins crawls in next to you, soaked and shaking. Gone, he mutters. You look at him. What? Frenchie. He's gone. You push back the flap. His tent is half buried in snow, collapsed in on itself like a mouth trying to swallow. You dig through it anyway, find the lump of wool, find the stillness. You check. No breath, no warmth, no surprise. The storm rages for hours. You lie on your side, eyes open, counting the seconds between gusts. The wind whistles through cracks in the tent like an old kettle. Everything aches. When the storm finally dies, it leaves behind silence. Deep, deafening silence. You emerge at dawn, blinking against the pale gray light. The landscape has changed. The wind sculpted the snow into ridges and troughs. Everything looks unfamiliar. Even the sleds are half covered. One of the dogs has a gash across its flank, maybe from debris, maybe from a fight. It limps, whines. Jenkins crouches beside it, wraps the wound with strips of wool, and murmurs nonsense into its ear. You move slowly that morning, every muscle sore, every breath thick. You bury Frenchie in the snow. Not deeply. There's no time, no tools. Just a few words, a spare scarf laid over the mound. Captain Witherspoon says a prayer in Latin. No one translates, no one needs to. Historians often marvel at how these expeditions kept going after losses. How, with dwindling rations and mounting deaths, the men pressed forward. Some say it was duty. Others call it madness. But out here, you know the truth. It's inertia. You move because stopping feels like admitting you won't move again. That day's march is quiet. The ice groans beneath the sleds. The dogs barely respond to commands. You stumble once and sink knee-deep into slush. You scream not from pain, but rage. Jenkins helps you up. You both pretend it didn't happen. That night, no one speaks. No stories, no songs, no theories about food or maps or mutinies. Just silence. You lie in your sleeping bag, staring at the canvas, and think about the ice. The thinness of it, the way it waits for weakness. You close your eyes. You dream you're walking across glass, and underneath there's something watching you, waiting. You hear the sound before you see a deep, resonant crunch that vibrates through your boots and into your ribs. It doesn't belong to the wind or the sled or the cracking ice. It's heavier, slower, purposeful. Then the dogs start to growl. The lead dog goes rigid, tail low, ears flat. The others bristle in unison, forming a rough, uneven line like soldiers spotting an enemy. Jenkins, half asleep on his feet, drops the harness rope. And then you see it, a pale shape moving at the edge of a snow ridge. At first it looks like mist, then it stands tall, too tall, broad, moving with an eerie kind of grace for something so massive. A polar bear. You've read about them, huge, powerful, unafraid, especially in the far north, where humans are just another thing that smells like meat. It pauses, sniffing the air. You freeze. The dogs bark now, frantic and high-pitched. One lunges forward, the others pull back. Chaos erupts. Dugan shouts. Jenkins scrambles for a flare. Witherspoon, bizarrely calm, reaches for the rifle strapped to the sled. The bear watches all of this with that detached, unsettling intelligence unique to apex predators. It knows the terrain better than you. It knows the hunger in your camp. It might even know that your bullets are limited. The flare goes up. A burst of red light, hissing and sputtering in the gray sky. The bear flinches slightly, then turns and disappears behind the ridge. No one exhales until it's gone. Captain Witherspoon lowers the rifle, wipes his brow, and mutters, "We are not alone. You don't march far that day." Everyone's rattled. The dogs are skittish, pulling unevenly. Jenkins keeps looking over his shoulder. Even Dugan, who's been through frostbite and mutiny-level tension, seems shaken. Because now you all know. The cold isn't your only predator out here. You make camp early. Build a rough perimeter of crates and rope, like that'll stop a polar bear. You tie the dogs tighter. Load the flare gun. Keep the rifle within arm's reach. Dinner is cold. No one dares fire up the oil lamp for long. Too much light might attract attention. Instead, you eat your rations in near darkness, fingers trembling slightly. The stew tastes like metal and silence. Later, someone whispers, "What if it comes back?" No one answers, because it might. Historians still debate how often polar bears attacked expeditions. Some records say rarely they're wary of humans. Others describe torn tents, missing food, mauled sled dogs. No one knows for sure. But the accounts are consistent in one way. The bears were never scared. And when they came with hunger. You try to sleep that night, but every noise outside sends your heart into a sprint. The wind becomes footsteps. The flap of canvas becomes breathing. And in the dark, your mind plays tricks. You imagine the bear standing right outside the tent. Quiet. Watching. Waiting for someone to unzip the flap and step outside for a moment too long. The next morning you find prints. Huge ones. Near the camp's edge. They weren't there yesterday. Jenkins doesn't speak at all. Just stares at the tracks. You pack quickly. The dogs are on edge, yelping at shadows. One has a fresh scratch on its side, maybe from a fight. Or maybe not. You move quickly across the flats, heads low, sled ropes tight. Every shadow looks like a white shape. Every gust of wind feels like a warning. By midday, your nerves are raw. Then the snow starts. Not heavy, but relentless. Fine particles that swirl around your face, coat your clothes, blind your eyes. A blizzard building by degrees. The ground becomes soft again. The sled sinks more than it slides. Jenkins slips and lands hard. You rush to him, pull him up. His nose is bleeding. He says, "I didn't even feel it." You don't stop moving. The cold has a new edge today, not just the usual ache, but fear. The kind that stalks just behind your heels. You reach your eyes and look back. Nothing, but you can't shake the feeling that something is still following. Camp that night is silent. You set no fire, share no stories. Everyone keeps one eye on the shadows just beyond the tents. You eat dry crackers. Chew slowly. Listen for crunches that aren't yours. The wind moans through the ice ridges like a dying thing. The tents flap weakly, then scratching. You sit up, listen harder. It's faint. Could be snow brushing canvas. Could be something else. You hold your breath. Nothing. Eventually, you lie back down. But you sleep in shifts now. One man always awake. Rifle nearby. Dogs restless. And you? You dream of eyes. Huge, white. Watching from a cliff as you stumble across the ice. You try to shout, but your voice freezes mid-breath. The bear doesn't chase you in the dream. It just waits. Because it knows you are slower every day. You can feel it in the way people move this morning, tense, slow, shoulders hunched, even when the wind isn't blowing. It's not just the cold anymore. It's the silence, the glances, the fact that no one's singing anymore, not even Jenkins. Something has shifted. You wake up and notice it immediately. The stew pot is empty, completely scraped clean. Which is odd because you remember seeing Jenkins ladle in the last scoop the night before, carefully covering it, setting it to one side for morning rations. But now, gone. You glance around. No one's looking at the pot. No one's saying anything. The air feels too still, too heavy. Captain Witherspoon blames the dogs. They got loose again, he says. Clever animals. But Dugan shakes his head. No teeth marks, he says quietly, and it was tied shut. Doubled knot. No one responds. Jenkins doesn't meet anyone's eyes. You start the day with one fewer ration than expected. No one protests, but the mood has turned. The trust the little that remained is thinning like the soles of your boots. Historians often refer to these periods in expedition journals as low morale or interpersonal strain. But you now understand that's just polite language for what's really happening. The soft unraveling of a group of starving men who no longer fully believe they'll survive. And when people stop believing in survival, they start looking at each other differently. During the march, you catch it. That moment. The glance. One man looking at another, not with camaraderie or even irritation, but calculation. You've seen that look on the dogs. When one limps too long, when one gets too weak to pull the sled. It's instinct. It's survival. And now it's in your camp. Around midday, Jenkins slows down. Not dramatically, just a little more than usual. Enough that you notice. Enough that Dugan turns around and offers to help with the load, but Jenkins declines. You think I can't pull my own sled now? He snaps. No, Dugan starts, then stops. Because what's the point? The damage is already done. Jenkins walks 10 paces behind the group for the rest of the day. You all pretend it's fine. That night, the air inside the tent feels thinner than usual. You sit with your back against a crate, staring at your boots, trying not to listen to the sound of someone quietly chewing too long, trying not to measure how much broth ended up in each man's bowl, trying not to notice that Witherspoon tucked something into his coat pocket that wasn't a notebook. Dinner is always the same, now barely warm, barely enough, and always eaten with a kind of urgent awkwardness, like you're afraid someone might count your spoonfuls. Then Dugan breaks the quiet. Let's talk about the stew, he says flatly. Nobody answers. I know someone took it, he continues. And if it was the dogs, then I apologize. But I don't think it was the dogs. Still, silence. Jenkins clears his throat. You accusing me? Dugan doesn't blink. I'm saying you were on watch last night, and now the food's gone. Captain Witherspoon raises a hand like a magistrate in an empty courtroom. Gentlemen, we will not descend into bickering. We must maintain order. Jenkins snorts. Order? There's no order left, just tin cans and frostbite. You shift uncomfortably. The ground beneath the tent is frozen solid, but the tension in the air is hotter than it's been in weeks. Let it go, you say quietly. But it doesn't go. That night, you sleep with your pack under your arm and your spoon tucked into your sleeve. It's not a weapon, not really, but it's all you have. You wake twice. Once to the sound of someone shifting just outside the tent, and once to a whisper. Not words, just a breath too close to your ear. When dawn breaks, everything feels fragile. As you pack up, Jenkins pulls you aside. They're going to do it, he whispers. Do what? Get rid of me. Don't be ridiculous. They're waiting for me to collapse. They'll say I fell behind. They'll leave me in the snow. You stare at him. His eyes are bloodshot. His lips cracked. His breath stinks of something sour and sickly. You want to deny it. You want to tell him he's wrong. But deep down, you're not sure he is. The march is quiet that day. Jenkins keeps his distance. The others don't look at him. Not directly. They don't need to. Around midday, someone coughs and mutters, "One less mouth." It's not even subtle anymore. Later, while tightening the sled harness, you spot something. A knife short, rusted, tucked into Jenkins' boot. You say nothing, but you note it, like everyone else. That night, the tents go up without a word. Everyone eats facing their own corner. Jenkins doesn't come inside. You find him sitting outside, legs crossed, staring at the horizon. It's almost beautiful, he says, gesturing to the sky. All that emptiness. You sit beside him, if only because you can't bear to be inside. He looks at you. Would you do it? He asks. What? If it came to it? Would you eat me? You laugh. Then stop. Because he's not joking. He'd want you to survive, he says. That's what he'd want. You don't answer. There's nothing to say. Later that night, the storm picks up. Snow slams against the tent. The canvas groans, the lamp flickers, and then metal scraping metal. You sit up fast. Dugan does too. You crawl outside. Jenkins is hunched over the supply crate, fumbling with the lock. He looks up when he sees you. No guilt, just hunger and despair. I just wanted a little more, he whispers, just to get through one more night. You take the tin from his hand. Not roughly, just enough. He doesn't resist. In the morning, Jenkins walks alone again. But this time he's not just behind. Has outside the circle. When you set up camp, no one calls him over. No one shares the fire. No one even looks when he fumbles with his tent rope. That night, the dogs bark at nothing. A shadow passes near camp. And Jenkins? Has still out there, somewhere near the sleds. You fall asleep with one eye open, the spoon still in your sleeve, wondering what desperation will look like tomorrow. The sun hasn't risen in days. Not really. What used to be a dim amber glow that skimmed the edge of the horizon is now just a smudge, a suggestion. The sky remains locked in that endless blue-gray, like a perpetual bruise stretched over your world. You can't tell what time it is anymore, not that it matters. Time has no authority here. You wake with your face stiff from frozen breath, and your knees curled to your chest like a child hiding from a storm. When you sit up, it takes longer than usual. Your back aches. Your thighs are numb. Your feet, well, you stopped feeling your toes 2 nights ago. You're afraid to check them again. The lamp sputters. The oil is nearly gone. You warm your hands over the tiny flicker and whisper to yourself that it'll last another day. It won't. Outside, the dogs are quiet. Even they've stopped barking now. Just low growls, occasional pacing, and the haunted stares they all seem to share lately. You used to see them as companions loyal, vital. Now they look more like ghosts with fur. Jenkins is still here. Barely. He's taken to sitting outside his tent all night, muttering under his breath. Some kind of song. Or maybe it's a list. You can't tell anymore. He doesn't pull the sled, doesn't cook, doesn't speak unless spoken to. He exists in that strange, in between space part of the group, but no longer inside it. You glance over as he pokes at the snow with a stick, drawing shapes, circles, over and over. He's tracing something invisible. You don't interrupt. No one does. That day's march is the slowest yet. You barely manage 3 miles. Captain Witherspoon walks with a limp now, though he insists it's a strategic adjustment to accommodate terrain irregularities, which is a pompous way to say his foot is probably frostbitten, and his pride won't let him say so out loud. Dugan grumbles. We should have turned back weeks ago. No such thing as back, Witherspoon replies, eyes vacant. Only forward. The silence after that lasts hours. The sleds drag like dead weight. One runner splits halfway through the day. No one has the energy to fix it. You tie it with canvas and keep going. The wind is quieter now, which should feel like a blessing, but it doesn't. The stillness is worse. It's like the whole world is holding its breath, waiting to see who collapses next. Jenkins stumbles twice. Doesn't get up right away. No one rushes over. You stop for camp while there's still enough light to see. Barely. You can't remember the last time anyone laughed, or sang, or even swore with real feeling. Everything is low murmurs now, just breath and snow and the clink of spoons. Tonight's stew is a broth of bones. No meat. The last scraps went yesterday. You boil old rations, snow, and a piece of seal fat you found frozen to the underside of the sled. It tastes like shoe polish and desperation. As you eat, Dugan speaks without looking up. Has gonna die tonight. You don't ask who. He means Jenkins. Everyone knows. The captain clears his throat. We will not speak that way. Dugan scoffs. Speak what way? Truth. The silence that follows is heavier than the sleds. Jenkins sits outside his tent again, humming to himself, rubbing something between his fingers. You get closer, quietly. It's a button. Just a small, worn button. Has turned it into a sort of totem. When he sees you, he smiles. They won't eat me, he says softly. I made sure. You don't know what he means. And you don't want to know. That night, you sleep for a few hours at best. The tent flaps move in slow rhythm. The dogs pace in uneasy circles. At one point, the silence is broken by a soft snap. You sit up, heart thudding. But nothing happens. You lie back down, whispering nonsense to yourself to drown out your thoughts. When morning arrives, or what passes for it, you emerge to find Jenkins' tent collapsed. You rush over, pull back the canvas. He's gone. Not dead gone. No body. No footprints. No note. Just his pack, untouched. His sled. And the button. Captain Witherspoon insists he wandered off in the night. Confusion, he says. Cold disorientation. It's not uncommon. But Dugan has another theory. He went out on purpose, he says. Didn't want to make us choose. And you? You think about the polar bear. Because if Jenkins didn't leave, something else took him. That day, you march in silence again. The wind picks up, but only a little. Like a whisper brushing your ear. You keep looking behind you, even though you know nothing's there. Or maybe not nothing. You pass strange snowdrifts. Too symmetrical. Too smooth. Like something lay down and melted. And then you realize no one's counting rations anymore. No one's discussing what to do next. They're just walking. Mechanically. One foot, then the next. The sun is completely gone now. No more glow. Just endless, starless sky pressing down like a lid. You make camp with your hands shaking, not from the cold, but from the knowing that this might be the last night you all pretend to be civilized, that something unspoken is shifting beneath the surface, that even if no one says it out loud, the long night has begun. And the worst part, There's no guarantee it ever ends. The last of the lamp oil is gone. You try anyway, give the wick a hopeful flick, as if stubbornness might coax one last flame into being. But the lamp just coughs, spits out a puff of fish-scented smoke, then dies. A tiny, final exhale. That's it. No more light unless the moon decides to help. And the moon has been absent for days, hiding behind thick, unmoving clouds like it wants no part of what's happening down here. You sit in the dark, wrapped in everything you own, listening to your own breath, fog the air. The tent walls creak gently as the wind presses against them. It's not violent tonight, just insistent like a reminder that even when the wind isn't screaming, it still owns you. Outside, the temperature is dropping fast. Inside your sleeping bag, your toes are already numb. You can't remember when you last had full feeling in them. You haven't taken your socks off in 3 days. You're afraid of what you'll see if you do. The dogs are quiet. They no longer bark or whimper, or they just lie there, curled tight in the snow, rising only when it's time to move. Even the aggressive one, the black and gray with the torn ear, has stopped growling. It just stares now, waiting. Captain Witherspoon is awake. You hear him scribbling in his journal, murmuring to himself like a man trying to remember how language works. You caught a glimpse of it earlier. The pages are blotchy with moisture, the ink smeared into black clouds. Most of what's left are loops and symbols, repetitions. Victory is near, he's written. Over and over. Victory is near. You're not sure he remembers what that means anymore. Dugan muttered earlier that the captain's mind froze before his beard did. You didn't argue. There's no breakfast today, not really. You chew on a strip of seal fat you found under the sled runner. It's gray, rubbery, and smells like wet rope. But it's something. Jenkins used to say that fat keeps the soul warm longer than meat. Jenkins hasn't said anything since he vanished. You still haven't talked about that. No one has. The morning's march is slow. Not for lack of trying, just that your bodies no longer respond like they used to. Your knees lock, your hips grind. Every joint is a rusty hinge. You wobble, slip, catch yourself, then repeat the motion 20 more times. You're not pulling the sled so much as dragging yourself forward by leaning into it. The rope carves into your shoulder, cutting through 3 layers of wool like it's paper. Dugan doesn't say much. He just walks, head down, eyes half closed, mumbling numbers to himself like a code. Even Captain Witherspoon is quieter now. No Latin today. No poetic declarations. Just a rasping breath and the occasional grunt when his leg buckles. The terrain has flattened. That should be good news, but it's not. Because now there's no visual marker. No slope, no landmark. Just a white expanse stretching endlessly ahead. The sky and ground have merged into one pale blur. There's no horizon anymore, just existence. At one point, someone, maybe you, asks, "How far today?" Captain Witherspoon glances at the compass, taps it once, then shrugs. "North," he says. "Or what's left of it. You move on. Hours pass. Maybe. Time has stopped being measurable. You used to count steps. Now you count breaths. The pain in your fingers, the blinks between gusts. At some point in the afternoon, or what you assume is afternoon, you stumble. Not hard. Just enough that your knees buckle and your face plants in the snow. You lie there for a long moment. Longer than you should. Long enough for the cold to slip under your scarf, into your collar, down your back like liquid ice. You hear nothing for a few seconds. Then Dugan's voice. "You dead?" You grunt. "Shame," he says. "Would have been easier." He holds out a hand. You take it. You rise. You march. Because even now, even here, it feels better than stopping. Eventually, camp is set up. The motions are mechanical now. Tent up, rope staked, dogs tethered, sled unpacked. You do it all without thinking. Like a sleepwalker. Like a machine built just for suffering. Dinner's a joke. Boiled snow with a handful of oat dust. It coats your tongue like chalk and tastes like regret. But it's warm. And that's something. You sit in the tent afterward, pressed between Dugan and the crate of dwindling supplies. The wind whistles through the seams. No one speaks for a long time. Then Dugan whispers, "This is the last night." You look at him. "What do you mean?" "I mean," he says slowly, "we're not going to do this again tomorrow. Something's going to give. Could be us. Could be the ice. Could be Witherspoon finally losing the thread. But this," he gestures around the tent. "This ends soon. You want to argue. You want to say something hopeful. But you don't. Because deep down, you know he's right." Witherspoon sitting near the flap, staring out into the snow. The dogs are lying in a loose crescent near the sleds. You see their ears twitching, their breath puffing in steady clouds. They're waiting too. For what? You don't know. You lie down. Close your eyes, and then a sound. Outside. Not wind, not snow. A crunch. You sit up. Dugan's eyes are already open. Another crunch. Footsteps? No one moves. Then silence. You crawl outside, slowly, carefully. Your breath hisses through your teeth. The sky is darker than before, almost black. But in the distance you see it. A shape, moving, not fast, just steady. You blink, and it's gone. Was it the wind? A trick of the dark? You back into the tent, say nothing. Dugan asks, "Something out there?" You shake your head. "Yes," you say, but you don't know what. Later that night, you hear Witherspoon writing again, scribbling frantically. You can't sleep, because you know somehow he's not writing a journal anymore. He's writing a eulogy, and it might be yours. The wind softens now. Just a hush. A sigh across the ice. The tents no longer flap, they rest. The sleds are still. The dogs lie motionless in the snow, their sides rising and falling like the tide. Inside your bag, the warmth is barely there, but it's enough. Enough to slow your breathing, enough to feel for one brief moment that you are cocooned. Not trapped, just still. You feel the ache recede, inch by inch. Your fingers stop twitching. Your toes are just part of you again. Not pain, not panic, just presence. Outside, snow begins to fall. Fine, like powdered glass. It covers the last footprints. It hides the torn rope. It smooths over everything until it looks untouched. You let your eyes close. You're not cold anymore. You're not hungry. You're not afraid. You dream of sunlight not blazing or bright, just soft and golden. A field of green, a table with warm bread, a window open to spring air. You dream of a world where no one freezes in silence. You drift. Deeper. Safer. The expedition fades behind you, and in front of you, just quiet. Just peace. Just rest. Sleep well, explorer. You've made it through the storm. You've walked far enough. End of story. Sweet dreams.